Fight or flight is a natural instinct, and it's a really good thing to have when it happens in the right context. We're going to talk about a few of the times when it happens in the wrong context. In other words, when fight or flight gets it wrong. Let's start by talking about fight or flight. It's important for you to understand what it is and what it isn't. And, some people call fight or flight a panic attack. Some people say I'm having an anxiety attack. Depending on the person and the situation, those could all be the same thing, but they can all be very different as well. For the purposes of this video, we're going to be talking specifically about fight or flight. So what is it? It's a natural instinct, and it's a really good thing to have in the right context. I think that if you experience fight or flight, if you have this happen in your life, that if you understand why you're having the symptoms you're having in fight or flight, I think somehow it just kind of turns down the volume on the stress and anxiety and the worry about what the heck is happening. So many of my clients have come in with symptoms of fight or flight, and they didn't really know that's what they were having, and they were scared, and they were very concerned about their well-being because they thought they were the only person in the world that was having this kind of experience. They did not realize it was a thing. So it's a thing. It's a protective thing. It's an instinct that we have. And when fight or flight gets triggered, what happens in our body is completely out of our hands. It's an involuntary survival instinct. When we get sick on the inside and there's a virus or a bacteria, it is our immune system that goes to bat. And it does all kinds of things to try to get rid of that internal threat. And it makes us feel miserable. We get sick to our stomach, we get a high fever, we get nausea. Sometimes we get diarrhea. Our body is trying to expel this foreign object so that we can get better again. And it's uncomfortable. But when it happens on the inside, we just kind of deal with it. We take medication for it and all of that. When there is a perceived threat from the outside, it's fight or flight that kicks in, and it can be just as uncomfortable. But what's interesting about fight or flight is that it happens in the wrong context all the time. Let's talk about a little bit about what it does, because I think it'll help you if you have fight or flight. If you have fight or flight, what happens is that your subconscious mind has detected an external threat. It could be a number of things. Usually they're not real, but your subconscious mind it's not you, right? It doesn't really analyze things. It can't compare and contrast. It's just like, that's a threat. That's not a threat. It's a threat, regardless of the degree of danger you could be in. It sets that fight or flight into motion, and trillions of survival hormones are flooded through your system, including adrenaline and cortisol. And it's like, all bets are off. You are no longer in control of what your body is doing. So the number one goal of fight or flight is this. It says, holy smokes, you're in big trouble. We got to get you out of the situation right now. That is its main goal, is to get you out of that situation. So in order to do that, the first thing it starts doing is it starts pumping blood, your blood circulation. It allocates the blood circulation away from the viscera. Do you know what the viscera is? It's this cavity, this body cavity where all the organs are. So the heart starts pumping really fast because it's allocating that blood circulation away from this part of your body. And where's it sending it? To your arms and legs, so that you can run fast and defend yourself. Remember, its number one job at this point is to get you the hell out of that situation, no matter what it is. And it doesn't know the difference between there's a bear chasing you or you're stuck at a red light and you're going to be 3 minutes late to a meeting. It just knows that you're in trouble and it's going to get you out of the situation. So your heart starts racing. Okay, it's pumping blood into your arms and legs. Don't you feel better in knowing that when you notice your heart start racing, you're not having a heart attack? Your body thinks you're being chased by a bear. And what happens with the heart? When the heart rate changes, your respiration changes to keep up with it. Cardiovascular thing And so very, very many times, if you're experiencing fight or flight, you'll start with the feeling of the heart racing, and then the respiration changes. You're short of breath, and little short, puffy breaths, and you try to talk, and you run out of breath, and you're trying to catch your breath. And because all of this is happening, many people, not everybody, but a lot of people feel that tightness across the chest or in the throat constriction. That happened to me one time, this tight thing. It was the weirdest feeling. It truly felt like one of those, those stretchy exercise bands. It felt like somebody had wrapped it around the top part of my chest, and it was just tight. It didn't hurt, but it just felt weird. It's like, oh my God, this is what my clients feel when they tell me they've got that tight thing going across the chest. But if you don't know why your body's doing this, it can scare the crap out of you. And that just makes it worse, right? That just fuels the fire in the subconscious mind that says, oh, well, now you're scared on top of everything else that's going on. We sensed an external threat, and now you're scared. This must really be happening. So yeah, turn up the volume on it. The heart's racing more. It's pumping more blood into that. A lot of people will feel a tingling sensation in their fingers because the blood circulation has changed in the hands. And if they're sensitive to that, they might feel that. So think about it. So your heart's racing, your respiration is challenged a little bit. And oftentimes when this happens, your body temperature will start to raise up a little bit. And we have this wonderful temperature regulator that says, oop, we're getting a little bit too warm. We need to cool down a little bit. And so it makes you break into a bit of a sweat and to release some of that moisture, because when that hits the air, it'll give you the chills and it'll cool you down a little bit. What a great idea. Except that now you're in the midst of a racing heart. You can't catch your breath, and you've got this tight feeling across your chest, and now you're sweating, and now you've got the chills, and now you're really getting scared. But we're not done. There's more to it. Think about all of these internal organs. And I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on in there. And if all of that is experiencing the allocation of energy away from it in the form of blood circulation, well, some people are highly sensitive to that, and they're going to feel it. Sometimes if they just feel it a little bit, they might say they've got butterflies in their stomach. But if you feel it a lot of it, you're going to be nauseous. You may even be nauseous to the point of vomiting. And now you're really scared, right? Oh my God, your heart's racing. You can't breathe. You're breaking down into a sweat. Now you're vomiting. It's like, I've been poisoned. I've got to go to the ER. I'm having a heart attack. It's just fight or flight. This is what happens. But think about how insidious this is. Because if this only happened to you once every now and then, it wouldn't really be a big deal. And that was how it was intended. It was intended to save us. It's a survival instinct. So yeah, if you lived in the woods and this kicked in, it'd be like, oh, there's something in the brush, and it could kill me. So this fight or flight kicks in so you can get the heck out of there. But we don't live in the forest anymore, most of us anyway. And this happens to us on a regular basis. Some people go into this fight or flight, and it is long term. What do you think is happening to these internal organs when they are experiencing the depletion of blood circulation 24/7? Oh my God, no wonder we have irritable bowel syndrome. We have digestive issues. We have menstrual issues. We have all kinds of issues with our kidneys and our spleen and ulcers. I mean, think about it. These organs are really important. It's the engine in the car. And when it's not getting the proper circulation, I mean, think of your car. If you don't have water in it, you don't keep the oil up and the power steering fluid, it doesn't run right. Things start breaking down. Well, that kind of is what happens with us too. So all of this blood circulation is being allocated from the viscera. It's being reallocated to arms and legs so we can run fast and defend ourselves. So that's great. That's really great. But there's another thing that happens too. There's a second part where this blood circulation is being allocated, and it is right here in the prefrontal cortex. This is the part of our brain where we have the ability to access information. Short-term memory is there. And so when you are in fight or flight, your blood circulation is being allocated away from this part of your brain, and it's sending that blood circulation to the reflexive part, because truly, if you're being chased by a bear, your reflexes are going to save you a hell of a lot faster than your intellectual ability to analyze the situation and see what path would be the best for you today. You get that. But this is what happens. We call it brain fog. I know you've experienced that. You're in a situation and all of a sudden it's like you can't think straight. You can't remember your name. You can't come up with an answer. This is what happens to people when they are taking an exam and they have test anxiety. So this is the first example of when fight or flight gets it wrong. You're going in to take a test. You've done all the homework. You've turned in all the assignments. You've studied. You've read. You've done everything. You know this information up one side and down the other. You go in and you sit down to take a test. And there's a lot writing on this test, right? And for some reason, your subconscious mind says, this is a dangerous situation. Now, again, it's not analyzing the reality of it. It just knows that if you don't pass this test, bad things could happen. And so it says, you're in danger. We've got to get you out of here now. So it kicks in that fight or flight. You may call it a panic attack. You may call it test anxiety. But this whole thing starts happening in your body, and that blood circulation goes away from this part of your brain, and you cannot recall the information you need to pass that test. So this is the first example of when fight or flight gets it wrong. It's responding out of context. Have you had that happen? It's one of my favorite things to work with clients in hypnosis, because in hypnosis, we communicate with the subconscious mind and we say, you know what? I really want to take this test. This is a good thing. I am perfectly safe taking this test. I have fun taking this test. I enjoy it because I know everything on that test. And then we practice in hypnosis, taking the test over and over and over in a state of calm, clear focus. And through that repetition, it creates new neural pathways. And then they go take the test and their brain says, oh, we do this all the time. Here's how it goes. And then that works. So we're able to circumvent all of this that I'm going to talk about today with hypnosis. But that's the first example. Fight or flight gets it wrong when you're taking a test. Let's talk about another very, very common time that fight or flight gets it wrong. And this is when you are required or you want to stand up and speak in public. It's the number one fear in America. It scares the crap out of people to even think about standing up and talking to a group of people. And it doesn't necessarily mean on a stage with a microphone in front of 300 people. It could be at a meeting at work, in the conference room with 3 people there, but you're presenting, or you're just at the meeting and they go around the table and they ask everybody for your input or bring us up to date on what your department's doing. And you're anticipating this coming up. Your turn is coming up. You're 2 people away. And you are breaking into a sweat and your heart is racing and you can't catch your breath and you try to talk and you're all jittery because those stress hormones are flooded in your system. And it finally comes to you and you cannot recall a thing you were trying to say and you feel like an idiot. And then after the meeting, you sit and you relive that rotten experience over and over and over. And then we all know, if you've listened to my videos, this is how we get really good at things, is through repetition. So this is another time when fight or flight gets it wrong. It's when you are in public speaking. We want to tell the subconscious mind, I want to do this public speaking. This could be a job interview. This could be a date with somebody. This could be a meeting that you want to be involved in at work because you're so excited. You really like this stuff and you want to be comfortable sharing this information. You want to be good at public speaking. So that's the second time that fight or flight gets it wrong. Sometimes we worry about money. Sometimes we've been programmed through life experience to be short on money. And then we worry about keeping the electricity on. We worry about making the car payment. We worry about getting evicted. It happens. It's a reality for a lot of people. It's been a reality for me in my past, in my younger years, not so much anymore, but that is an emotional trauma. And when you have an emotional trauma, your subconscious mind registers that trauma and says, bad, money problems, bad. dangerous, a threat to your life. It's kind of just that rudimentary. So then later in life, anytime the idea of money comes up, I mean, you could just be going to the mailbox to get it and you pull it out and there's your electric bill and your subconscious mind says, oh my God, you're in danger. Again, it doesn't know the difference between you got the electric bill in the mail or there's a bear chasing you, and that fight or flight kicks in and you have a panic attack and your heart is racing and you're sick to your stomach and you're like, geez, Louise, I got plenty of money for this bill. Why does this keep happening to me? It's because this is yet another example when fight or flight gets it wrong. It responds out of context because it is a conditioned response machine, this subconscious mind of ours. So money issues happens to all of us, definitely. You know, another really common one is when you have to go to the dentist. Nobody loves to go to the dentist. Well, maybe some people do. I understand that some little kids really like to go to the dentist because the dentist is really good at making them comfortable and having fun, and they get little prizes and nothing hurts. And that's really, really good programming, teaching those children. And they'll carry that through into adulthood with them, that going to the dentist is okay. But there's a lot of people who go to the dentist and it hurts and it's expensive and it's a dreaded event. It's kind of a necessary evil, though. You have to go. And so I have worked with a number of clients who have a dental phobia. And really all that means is when they even think about going to the dentist, even just think about making that appointment, their subconscious mind says, ooh, this is a dangerous situation. You really hate this. You have experienced a lot of pain and a lot of stress and anxiety, and we don't want you to do this. Again, it doesn't know the difference between a bear chasing you and you're going to go get your teeth cleaned. So just the mere thought of going to the dentist can trigger that fight or flight, and that's oftentimes called a phobia. But it's a conditioned response. And another example of when fight or flight gets it wrong, going to the dentist. Ever been in a car accident? Even if it was just a fender bender. If you had any kind of a trauma, you were in a car accident, usually what happens with a car accident is that after it's over, even if you're okay, or sometimes you're not, but afterwards, you think about it repeatedly. You got to tell so many people about it. You know, you got to tell the cops, you got to tell the insurance people, you got to tell the doctor, you got to tell your family, and then you ruminate it over and over and over. Ruminate about it, I should say. And there we go again. There's that repetition. You have really strengthened those neural pathways, and you are just damn good at being scared to death about getting back in the car. So your subconscious mind says, you know what? That's not a good idea for you to drive, because last time you did, or that one time that you did, it could have been 40 years ago. But when that happened 40 years ago, really bad things happen. And so it doesn't want you to do that again. It's going to do whatever it can to get you out of that situation. And so you may find, if you've had an accident or some kind of a trauma, even if you just saw an accident, you didn't even have to be in it. So don't watch car wrecks on YouTube. Your subconscious mind doesn't know you're not having that car wreck yourself. But what will happen is then you are programmed to be afraid of that, and you'll have a hard time getting back behind the wheel afterwards. It's kind of like, you know, the story about if you get bucked off a horse, the best thing to do is just get right back in the saddle. It's because you should get back in the saddle before you've had time to develop the neural pathways of fear of riding that horse again. I hope that makes sense. But having a car accident or seeing a car accident or even hearing about a car accident can be enough to traumatize you, which then informs your subconscious mind that that's a dangerous thing, and it's going to do everything in its power to keep you from getting in that car so that you don't have an accident. It thinks it's helping you. It thinks it's saving you. But this is yet another example of when fight or flight gets it wrong. It gets it wrong all the time. And if you are experiencing fight or flight out of context, please know that there's nothing wrong with you. This is just the way the brain works. And there is help. It's an easy solution. I teach people how to do self-hypnosis. I have a book you can read. I have a class you can take. Or you can work with me personally if you'd rather work with a professional. But it's just so wonderful to know that if your subconscious mind is triggering or activating that fight or flight, that there is help, there is hope. If you are on the wrong end of fight or flight, getting it wrong, there's help available, and you can teach your subconscious mind that unless you're truly being chased by a bear, that you don't want it to act like you're being chased by a bear.